Hey, and welcome to Embetterment. This is your host, Chris Harrington, and today I'm going to discuss a lesson that I learned in my last obstacle race in 2022, and that lesson is how you can go faster by being around faster people. I'll explore how this applies generally across life and not just in racing. So we've all heard the saying that you're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And this rings true and highlights how important our environment actually is and how it can dictate both the direction and our speed. But how exactly can you go faster or go further by being around faster people? And I'm not just talking about running here, I'm talking about in life. How are we going to magically go further if we're around more ambitious people, for instance? I want to share a story that highlights the power of the mind and how you truly can go faster by being around faster people. In whatever context this may matter to you, that's up to you to decide, but here's my own personal story. So it's November 2022, and I'm scheduled to run the Spartan race at Fenway Park. And for those of you that don't know, I got back into obstacle course racing back in 2019. Originally did my first race back in 2012, and I stopped throughout college, only to find my way back to it in 2019. I've always been into lifting and bodybuilding, but I've always wanted to maintain a more functional level of fitness. Obviously, bodybuilding and strength training are great, but they're not, I would say, the ultimate way to stay healthy. And obstacle course racing to me seemed like the perfect mix. You can't just be physically strong and you can't just be a good runner. You need kind of the best of both worlds. So I signed up to the race at Fenway Park. It's a 5K race, there's 20 obstacles, and going into that race that Saturday was the last race of the season for me. So really kind of a lot on the line in terms of me mentally going into that race. I wanted to do good and I wanted to test out my progress. The year prior, I actually ran Fenway and I qualified for the elite race by placing in the top 5. And that year, I really wanted to get a podium finish in the top 3 in 2022. So I wanted to get a top 3 in the age group, which is really where I was racing, the heat that I decided to run in. And I chose not to run elite, really just as a way to push myself to get a couple more podium finishes before going back into the elite bracket, which is the best of the best runners here, competing with the top runners in the region. And leading up to that race, I felt really well prepared. I had been doing a lot of stretching, a lot of yoga, a little bit of running, some lifting, and I really just felt dialed in. I felt like I did a lot. I had a good deload. I took some, rest time from the weights, kind of the week leading up to it, and going into the race, I just felt ready. I felt primed. I felt like I had everything dialed in with the pre-race buildup, the nutrition. Everything was really just dialed in and on point. And I head to the race, and I end up coming in 4th, right? So it's Saturday. I come in 4th place. I found out later on that one of the guys, the guy that came in 3rd place, got penalty time. So he failed an obstacle or something had happened and it bumped me into 3rd place. And I ended up getting a podium finish that first day. I kind of run back over to the race venue and I get the photo op. One of the guys had actually shot me a message, hey, you actually bumped into 3rd, get back over here. So I race out and, run over to get the photo op and get the medal. So I decide, after that, I'm actually going to run again, right? So every time they do a race weekend, it's Saturday and Sunday. But originally I thought, I'll just run Saturday and then I'll kind of chill for Sunday. But I decided, I might as well give it everything I've got and go do another race. And even though I've already kind of given it everything I've got that Saturday, I got 3rd place. I was going to just kind of rest and relax that weekend. I decided, you know what? Let's run it back. Let's do it again. So that Sunday, I was going to run again. So it's Saturday night, right? After the brutal race that first day, right? And when I say I gave it my all, I mean, I was exhausted. And when I run these races, I'm beat up. I'm sore immediately after, right? Even though it's just a 5K, it's the obstacles, it's the buildup, it's the mental toll, it's the physical toll. It's a little bit of everything that really kind of runs you down. So again, originally I didn't plan on running that Sunday. So that Saturday after the race, I'm actually at a friend's birthday party really late, right? Nutrition's not really dialed in. I'm kind of just eating at the party, just kind of eating here and there, sporadic meals, and I'm just beat up from that prior race. So, that first race, it's tough going into another race after you just kind of beat your body up and really gave it your all. And that next night, that Saturday night, I don't sleep at all. I just, I'm just awake the whole time in anticipation of what's to come again, right? Just this mental angst of, I got to do this all over again. I got to get out there. I got to get there early. I've got to run again. And so day two, I get to the race venue and I want to get in the first wave. So if you don't know, they let 15 runners go at a time. And when I get there, there's already 15 people lined up. So I end up in the second wave. So 15 runners in the first wave. And I'm kind of frustrated, to be honest, because that means I have to pass more people, and I'm going to be with a slower set of people as I'm running. So the first 15 people are usually the fastest, and I'm also going to have to pass more people as I get to obstacles and as I try to, get through this race, because there's 15 people starting in front of me, and then there's a minute delay, and then we go off in the next 15. So I'm thinking this is going to slow me down. And so I'm in this slower heat, and I just start out and I've run so fast out of the gate, and I never saw another person in my heat again. I took off as fast as I could, and right when we get up to the first set of obstacles, as soon as I made it up the first set of stairs and got to the top of Fenway Park, I'm like, oh man, I went out too hot. I just did too much. I'm going to be burnt out and I'm going to fatigue early. And this is rough, right? And what ends up happening is I went so fast and I never slowed down. And really, I think there were only maybe two guys that passed me from the first wave, and a couple people here and there, but I was running alone most of this entire race and just passing people left and right, and I ended up getting second place, and I must have passed 20 people while I was running, and easily 20 people. And each person that I passed, it just gave me more kind of mental fuel. I ended up, beating the day before. Like I did a better time the second day by almost a minute. I think it was about 40 seconds faster. Now, physically, how is that possible? Like, I got no sleep going into the second race. My nutrition's not dialed in at all. And my body's, when I say like beat up, I'm completely trashed. And, being beat up from that first race, I broke myself off in that second race, and I went all out. And I thought I did that on the first race, but I beat my time by 40 seconds. And I really thought originally that I just went out too fast. And what ended up happening, I just never slowed down. And that's the thing that made me realize. And, I was talking to one of the guys at the finish about this, and it did make me realize that if you're around faster people, it actually makes you go faster. Like, the same thing works on the inverse, right? If you're around a slower wave and you're with slower people, you're going to conform to the group, right? You're going to inevitably run slower to conform with the consensus of the group and the speed and the pace that they're setting. So the lesson that I learned applies way further outside of running, and that is that you can go faster by being around faster people. The saying is that you're the result of the 5 people that you spend the most time around, and that really is true. And even in passing, the people that you're around really can dictate the speed at which you can go and the direction at which you go. There's a saying that to go fast, go alone, and to go far, go together. And this really made me realize that. It made me realize that you kind of have to go alone sometimes in order to put yourself around people that are going to push you to go faster and go further. I mean, physically, think about it in that race. There's no reason, there's no way that I should have done better on the second day going into that second race. Placing third and then, being beat up and then going for a second day immediately after. Just busted up, sore, no sleep, the nutrition's off, I'm not well hydrated as I was on the first day. There's no reason that I should have done better. But I set my own pace. And on day one, I was in the mindset of there's 2 people in front of me, and those 2 people in that wave, I need to try to keep up with them. And that dictated my pace. And that's how I set the pace for myself on that first day. And on day 2, I set my own pace and I put it all out there. And, I know the course, so that definitely helped, but I knew what obstacles were coming, and it just made me realize that, you're setting yourself up dependent on those that are around you, your environment. And you can go faster by being around those faster people. And keep in mind, you may end up going slower, and you may end up holding yourself back if you're around people that are going slower, people that are going to limit you or hold you back. And again, this is not just about running. This may be about limiting beliefs and thoughts and the environment around you dictating how far you think you can go with a job, a career, a passion, whatever it is. You know, something to keep in mind. And something that I learned from this race is that if you want to go fast, be around fast people. Or you might inevitably go slower and find yourself around slower people that are holding you back with limiting beliefs and limiting stories. So something to keep in mind. It's something that I think about, and I think it's really going to help me going forward as I continue with racing, and even in just the general direction of my life as I continue with racing or, again, just career and everything life in general. Be around people that inspire me to help me to go further and help me to set a pace that's higher, a pace that's faster, and then I can go faster and go further with the right environment around me.